Hello, you amazing people out there, and welcome to the Amazing Action Comics Podcast, where we are all about independent comics. I'm one of your hosts, Angel, with John Pepe.
How's it going, Angel?
What's going on, brother?
Nothing much, man. Good to
Uh,
be back.
it is good to be back. You know, it's funny. I'm over here watching my phone because my wife just landed in North Carolina, and I told her that I was on a podcast, and she's still texting me. So it's wonderful. So I'm just gonna text her back real quick, and this is making really good radio.
This is always good.
Yes, always good. How's it going, bro?
It's going good, man. Going
Yep.
good.
I
Got
like
the
the shaved
haircut.
head.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. All right. So there is a story behind this.
Yes.
I need to hear the story. Well, actually, the listeners need to hear the story behind this because I've only seen you like this once, and
That's right.
I
Yeah.
think that was just because you were going through something and you just decided to shave. It went from like super long, like past your shoulders, to like nothing on your head.
So I think since I've known you, I think this is technically the third time,
Okay.
because I did it right before I started working at the shop. Because I was getting I thought it would be a great idea right in the middle of COVID, June 2020, to have endoscopy and colonoscopy. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm just gonna just make it easy for him. So I just did just the full shave, right? And then I remember I think I did it again because then I shortly after that I started working at the shop, and then I did it again a couple years later, like in between.
Yep.
But I did it myself. It was really bad. It was really patchy. So this time I did have some help where one of my best friends, Bart Capuano, likes to make movies, and we were making movies in the woods in high school and stuff like that. And he said his midlife crisis is to do a Frankenstein fan film. This is his sports car, right? Because he's gonna be 50 in December. And so I was helping him playing a couple different parts in this movie, and each one required a different look. And so so a week ago on Monday, we were up in the woods and we had just no reception, but we were doing a Frankenstein versus Wolfman fight. And so it was a lot easier to just shave all of this off, because I swear he just probably poured like a bucket of Spherica all over my head to get these. I was full head prosthetics to get all that stuff to stick, So yeah, so cheap haircut is the short answer.
Nice. All right, wait. So I know this because we spoke about this a little bit. So there's a movie coming. Is there like a transformation scene where you go from man to werewolf?
So this is what's really funny is I am actually the stunt wolf. So I am the Wolfman for the fight scene with Frankenstein. Bart is playing Frankenstein's monster, right? So we have a different guy playing Larry Talbot and some of the Wolfman scenes, and they actually just shot the transformation scene a couple days ago. But the guy playing Larry Talbot is an indie comic creator. One half of the Timoney brothers. So it is Peter Timoney and his twin brother, Bobby Timoney. Bobby is out in LA working. I mean, he's done you remember that DC superhero pets movie that came out?
Yes.
Yeah, he did the graphic novel of that and some of the ancillary material. Yeah. So that's Bobby. Peter also, illustrates. They did a thing together a bunch of years ago when DC had that imprint called Zuda. Do you remember Zuda Comics?
No.
And a lot of the stuff they published, since it was all comic, because it was like online comic strips, like your 3-4 panel comic strips.
Right.
And then they collected them into book format, and they were these long books. And one of the ones that they did, that Peter and Bobby Timoney did, was called Night Owls, which was really fun. It was like this 1930s detective agency with a talking gargoyle. Like it was really fun, all ages stuff, but really cool sensibility. So yeah, so Peter Timoney, that half of the twins, is Larry Talbot.
Nice. All right.
Scoop. There's a scoop for you, folks. No one's heard that before outside of that.
And no ETA yet on when this film's going to be released.
Not yet. But we might ask you to see if you'd be interested in drawing the movie poster. He's done this before. About 20 years ago, a little less than 20 years ago, we filmed a movie and then he rented out a theater, the Hawthorne Theater.
Right.
And we showed it there. We had a big screen movie premiere. So we're thinking he wants to do that again for this one. So we'll see how it goes. Knock on wood.
See what happens. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Amazing Action Comics Podcast. This is episode 138, and this is our indie comic review segment. This is where Phil and I put in our 2 cents for anything that comes out for the week, as far as what we consider small press or independent comic or creator owned. And we do have, I think, a couple of comics for you. But before we get there, just a little bit of news. So I know last week I went over some of this stuff, and over the last couple of weeks we were playing with sort of like this new system. It was cheaper than the one that we previously had, and you know what happens when you go cheaper? Usually things break. So I wasn't really happy with the sound, and I wasn't happy with the quality of like the syncing, because it didn't allow us to go on like to upload to podcast. I'm not going to mention what service it was because I don't want to blast anybody. I don't know if it was my system or if it was their software, but I reverted back to what we originally had, and everything seems to be working really fine now. And I bet you the audio quality is going to be a lot better than what it was over the last 2 weeks. So John apologizes for that. All right, so yeah, so just a bit of news. A retweet announcement. So really excited. I know I had a wait to report it back out.
Angel, your audio's muddy. Like right after you said the audio should be better, you got all muddy.
Oh, did it? Is it
now you're better. Now you're better.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe I just got overly excited. All right. So we spoke about this shortly last week. We spoke about the inception of Image and the original founders, and I believe the initial book that launched at Image was Youngblood. Mm-hmm. And then shortly after, everything rolled out, Youngblood by Rob Liefeld. And then I think right after that came Spawn. And then shortly after, Wildcat, Cyberforce, Shadowhawk, Savage Dragon, yada, yada, yada.
And eventually Wetworks.
Dude, listen, I have to say that story again. So I did talk about Wetworks last week only because of this. So I don't know how many years ago, but it's been years. Whilce Portacio was at a con, and people were lined up to get books signed. And in everybody's hands were X-Men books. X-Men this, X-Men that, because he was on it for a little while doing covers, did some interiors as well. But dude, nobody had anything from his Image catalog, Wetworks. And so I'm on this line, it's creeping forward. People had books, people had single issues. I finally get to him, really nice guy, soft-spoken, but really, really nice. And I hand him the book, and he's like, "What? Like surprised? You want me to sign this?" I'm like, "Yeah, bro, I love this book. I want more of this." And he just started laughing, and then we just had a short conversation. But I was the only one that day that brought Wetworks up, and it's like, to me, that's huge because everything else was not any of his IP. It was a sandbox that he had to play in, where Wetworks was all his. So he laughed, we laughed, and I got it signed. And to this day, I still have it in my my collection.
Nice. Yeah, I remember he first came on my radar because he was doing Punisher. Great run of Punisher. I think Mike Barron was writing at the time still. And did Punisher for about a year and a half. Then got that plum gig, that upgrade to the X-Men. And was working on the other X-Men book. He was working on Uncanny, I think, right?
Yep,
well, Jim Lee was doing X-Men, and with that launch, and then was part of the announcement for Image, and really excited. And then I think something happened where there was family issues that delayed the release of Wetworks. But I remember that was like the last holdout, and everyone was like, "When's it coming out? When's it coming out?"
Yeah, I loved it from the beginning. So, but the initial launch of Youngbloods just kind of set everything on fire, and through some means, whatever happened, Rob Liefeld lost the rights to Youngblood, or lost the rights to publish Youngblood at all. And it was a whole controversy for years. And I remember a couple years ago, I believe he did something with Chad Bauer with Image Comics with a short Youngblood run. I don't know how that came to be. I think Chad Bauer was writing it, and he was doing covers and maybe some interiors, if I remember. Or Chad Bauer was just doing a little bit of both. And I liked it. I thought it was going to be a resurgence of that particular book coming back, but no, it finished off and then nothing. And I remember being on, it's called X now, where the person who had the rights to publish Youngblood was promising all this stuff, and nothing came through. And I think a whole bunch of creators just got stiffed. But recently, about a couple of weeks ago, Rob Liefeld, the creator of Youngblood, announced that through some means, he's going to be able to work on another story for Youngblood, which is fantastic because he knows these characters inside and out. And there's characters that came in and out that he's used, like Brigade, I'm trying to think of other ones. Bloodstrike, a bunch that he owns still. So it's funny because I think what happened is that whatever company he was with, I can't remember who it was. I don't think it was Malibu, but those characters got broken off, and he got to keep a bunch of them, and some of them he didn't. And Youngblood was one of them, which is crazy because that's your first initial launched book with like a meaty catalog of characters, and that one doesn't go your way.
Right.
But
it's interesting you mentioned Malibu because I didn't realize this until I was reading about this recently. But originally, Malibu was going to publish Youngblood.
Correct.
Before the idea to do Image came out, I was like, "Well, that's wild."
Well, the thing is that Malibu was their distributor for the first year.
Yes.
So they distributed the Image comic stuff because they were kind of teaching them the ropes of distribution.
Right.
So they had a year deal for that. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we probably don't know behind the scenes.
It would have been crazy though if Youngblood wound up being if Image didn't happen and Youngblood wound up being published by Malibu, and then a year and a half later, Marvel buys Malibu and destroys every property for Malibu, though tried to use some of the stuff. That Youngblood could have wound up right back at Marvel.
Yeah. Because I mean, even look at with Jim Lee going over to DC and selling all of his Wildstorm stuff. You had Wildcats. You had a resurgence of Wildcats. It was pretty good, but it didn't have his touch on it. I mean, I read it. I like the characters, but it didn't have his touch on it. If he was involved in some way, even if it was part of the story, because I mean, if you're creating those characters, you know them inside and out. You know their motivations. You know what they're supposed to be like. You know how they're supposed to sound. You just sold them out, and DC did something with them at least, and I think they only did something with them because they have to hold on to the rights. That's usually how it works. But
also you have Jim Lee, and Jim Lee is now chief creative officer and president and of DC and everything.
Right.
You want to keep that guy. You do what he asks you to do, and you publish what he wants you to publish.
Exactly. And we're having a little bit of resurgence of this 90s stuff. I mean, we already spoke about Local Man with Tony Fleece and who's the other guy?
The Hack Slash guy.
Yes. We'll get it eventually.
Yeah.
Sorry. That you got Free Agents. You got
Tim Seeley.
Tim Seeley. There you go. Blood Squad 7. I think you had recently just a Cyber Force 0. And that was part of a talent search that Mark Silvestri did. So I think there might be a resurgence of Cyber Force, which I'm really excited about. Listen, these are comics that I grew up with in the 90s. So if we get just even a little bit of a taste.
A couple of things I want to touch on. You just mentioned Local Man, and did you notice what Local Man just did with the most recent issue? It's such a classic callback for Image Comics. So last month or the previous issue of Local Man was issue 13.
Right.
And now the one that just came out was issue 25.
I didn't even notice that.
And they even had the same logo because this happened. There was a point, I think, where the Image creators were running behind almost a little over a year in. And they said, we're going to roll the clock forward. We're going to do whatever the issue would be in a year and a half, give these guys time to catch up and let you know what stories we're building to. So it's a clever way of just kind of doing a preview book, right? Of what to expect for storylines. And Local Man, just emulated that, which I think is such a great callback. I think that's really cool.
That's so funny.
But the other thing that's funny about Youngblood coming back is, we've talked about this recently, is Blood Squad 7 is the book that I think that Joe Casey or Joe Kelly, one of the Joes, is writing. That is sort of a continuity patch for the Image the greater Image universe, replacing Youngblood with this Blood Squad 7. So now it's kind of interesting to see if this Youngblood is going to be its own sort of self-contained, the Halloween trilogy that just finished up. Like this is picking up from the original run that Liefeld did, discounting everything that happened in between and whatever. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what comes out of it, but I do I like this sort of reunion tour that Rob Liefeld's doing. He's doing the last Deadpool that he'll do for Marvel, with the Deadpool team up. And clearly there's a dream character he put Crystar. Remember Crystar, the action? Yes. That guy's in this Deadpool team up. I know. And I think it's purely because it's an IP that Hasbro has, because they did make a Marvel Legends Crystar action figure. And I think it's something that Rob genuinely loves and is honestly a character that's perfect for his style.
Yes.
And now he's going back. He's going through Youngblood. And, so maybe if we're lucky in a couple, 3 years, Marvel can lure him back and he could do Captain America again.
Yeah, I thought that's gonna happen. I think he's on a path of just his creator owned. He's big on Whatnot right now, so he's selling like Last Blood. I think
Yeah.
issue 2 is getting ready to go up there. So he spoke about this thing called like micro distribution, which is pretty much what he's doing.
Yeah.
Which is you have enough of a following, you don't need that other market. Pretty
Hmm.
much, you've built up a following, so now you have all of these technical systems that can assist you to get your stuff out there. And
Yeah.
then he has probably some like a team behind the scenes that are going to be fulfilling orders and stuff like that. But why have the middleman? You can just keep all the profit for yourself.
Yep.
In that respects, the only problem is that where do the local comic shops kind of stand
Yeah. Yeah.
in all of this? So I think you need them both in that respects, and you know there's room for everything, I say. But yes, I'm looking forward to Youngblood possibly coming back. I hope it goes to direct market. I hope it's not going to be one of these micro distribution things that he's going to be doing, but I really do hope that it goes. I mean, it should go into Image
Yeah.
if it's
Yeah.
going to go anywhere. So we'll see what happens with that. The other thing that we have for you guys is next year we're going to be at the Indie Comic Creator Con. This is the second year this show is going on. It's held at the Southern Connecticut State University. They did so well last year that it's even bigger this year. So they're using more rooms to get everything going. And it really is just indie comic creators. So you're going to have everything from people that animate to writers to artists to actual creators of books. So I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be held on Saturday, March 15th in 2025 at the Southern Connecticut State University. And I'm going to be there with a booth, which leads us into our next piece of news where we have we're going to actually launch Project Shadow Breed reboots at IC3. So Justin and I just had a really powwow session, and when we met, the first 5 issues of this particular book were already created with another creative team. And we've been working at the second volume of this thing. We actually have other issues already done. But looking back in retrospect, we sat down, we had a powwow, and we're like, listen, I think this is the biggest story here, and I think it deserves a reboot. So with it, we can take a fresh start to something that we think that we can really build on. And the stories that we've already created, they're going to fit into the puzzle that we're going to set forward from the very beginning. So actually, I was talking to John right before, and here in my hand is I'm not going to show you words. Is the third draft of the first issue, and I'm kind of giddy because I'm really excited about working on this. And we're collaborating back and forth with some really great, give and take of where the story should go. Justin has a really clear vision for the characters and where he wants the story to go. So I'm really excited. So we're pushing hard because we have to get this draft done probably within the next week or two so that we can actually start working on the art and the story and have it ready for March launch, which is not a lot of time. So it's like right around the corner. So stay tuned for that. You can always go to amazingactions.com to stay up to date on everything that we've got going on there in regards to Project Shadow Breed and everything else. Okay, last bit of news, and this one I'm really excited about because the other day, I don't know, for some reason, I was on Amazon and I was going through like 80s cartoon stuff, and some of the stuff is free, so you can get like He-Man for free, you can get some episodes of Thundercats for free, and I loved all these it's funny because the art themselves in the cartoon didn't match the opening. So like Thundercats, it was like and Voltron, they were all like Japanese anime inspired and drawn that way. Thundercats probably has one of the best freaking openings from any animation. I could just hear and then freaking goes right into the song. And dude, I'm down. But the other one, I was like shifting through, and all of a sudden, tally ho! Fucking Silverhawks. Freaking Silverhawks. So you can't get it for free, which sucks. You can get like short clips of 2 minutes here and there. So I said, you know what? Let me just suck it up. And I freaking just bought the first episode, the pilot. Holy shit, was I not disappointed. That thing was just fantastic. Like origins in these like 80s cartoons were just so ridiculous. But I loved like even the characters name, like the main bad guy is Monstar.
Right, that's right.
And he changes to like almost like Mumra through the Red Star. But Dynamite, we spoke about this last week, has just been licensing IP left and right Disney stuff. You have Thundercats in there. You got Space Ghost, Johnny Quest, Powerpuff Girls, like a wide range of IPs that they've just been sucking up and distributing out. So good for them. They're still doing the booby stuff because I see Red Sonja like every other week. But really excited to see, and more recently Terminator, which we spoke about last week too. We spoke about in person what we think hopefully should happen with that book. But now we're going to get Silverhawks. So if it stays true to the cartoon, then I'm all in. I definitely all in. I saw a couple of the covers that are coming out, and I'm like, yes, I can't wait. So yeah, look out for that. I don't know if it's November or December, but it should be sometime before the end of this year. We're going to see our first issue of Silverhawks. Tally ho. All right, so that's all the news that we have for you this week. I guess let's just jump right into it, right?
Yeah,
I think we have 3 books for you this week.
All right.
For reviews. This is going to be for the week of October 16th. So that's that Wednesday of last that these books came out. So why don't you start with the one that you have?
Sure. Oh, or the 2. I got 2, right?
You've got 2. One that we both read. We'll save that one for next.
Okay.
Go for
I dropped one, so I'm going to do this one first. So, hey, it's October. Halloween is like in a week and a half, man. And one of the things I love about October in the comics world is that you get a lot of comics that are, horror, ghost themed, great stuff like that. It's always a really good output. There were a few last week that were really cool, really fun. But I wanted to highlight 2 this week that do tackle a couple cool, scary things. And I thought the first one we're going to do, I thought is the perfect mashup because it's 2 of the scariest things right now that we're probably going to be dealing with, or it deals with one of the scariest things. And then again, in the backdrop of the horror realm. So this is from IDW. Still using their old logo. I don't know if you heard anything about Comic-Con. They debuted a brand new logo this last week. Yeah, it's awful. People were dragging them about it. Yeah, it's a big I and it's a big D, and then it's split down the mid. There's there's negative space in the middle, and that's supposed to make the W. Yeah, they were getting dragged about it apparently. But right now it's their 25th anniversary, so they're still doing their 25 years IDW logo. This is called The Exorcism at 1600 pen. I opted for the Jock variant cover. That's the main cover right there. But there was something cool about the little Barbados type demon, that demon there. I love cool. That. And I love Jock. Jock Jock, not the other one. I think JOK or whatever that guy is. But yeah, this is so I opted for that cover. And yeah, as you can tell from the title, it does have to do with spiritual possession in the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. So, boy, this book is like, not only do we want our finger on the pulse of what's going on, we want to try and get ahead of it, because this starts off with the first female president being sworn in on Inauguration Day for the United States. And typical family makeup. They got 2 kids, an older boy and a younger girl. And they're both high school age. And they're starting a new school, and it is a Catholic school. Catholicism is a big part of this. There's a lot of, that is, and again, where we're at, with our country too, as well. It's always expected. President goes to church every Sunday. That is sort of what traditionally has been who gets elected. So they weave that in here. And let me get to the credits here. Hannah Rose May is the writer. Vanessa Del Rey is the artist. Jordi Belair did colors. Hassan Atsmani Alau did the letters. Cassandra Jones, editorial assistant. Heather Antos, editor, and designed by Nathan Wittick. So they really do front load this with politics. The 2 teenagers adjusting to the new school and also being children of the president. And then, then the unease, the settling into the new role that this woman has as president. And then they start slipping in the demonic possession stuff. So it's really a slow burn for the first issue. But then there's little visual tells throughout, which I really appreciate. I'll get to that in a second with the art style. And then by the end, you're in full on possession mode. It's time to call the exorcist. We got somebody possessed in the White House, and it's got to be taken care of. So I really thought that was cool. I really thought the buildup was great. Because it really, look, I'm a political junkie. I also like slice of life comics. So I liked this sort of vibe of reading about the two teenagers, the brother, sister, trying to adjust to school. He's popular. She's not. He really leans into like what they're doing to her to consider her an outcast, and how that comes together at the family dinner table. And their mom is the president, so there's all that stuff, and then what she has to deal with, and the rival senator who gets this piece of information that she's trying to process and decide how to handle it and disseminate that to the public, and that he jumps the gun on that. So everything is really hard for this woman right out the gate. And then to deal with this demonic possession is, on top of that, really amps the anxiety in this story. Yeah.
So will you give away too much if you say who gets possessed?
I almost don't want to.
Okay.
I'll let you know it's one of the three people that I've mentioned.
Okay.
So but it is within the family.
And do we get the motives and intentions of the demon that's possessing?
Not at this point, which is actually really cool, because again, that is a building that is rich in history, and there's a lot of people have died in there, and so there's a lot of possibility. Plus, if you go into like the whole with the founding fathers were all occultists and stuff like that, then almost supernatural demonic entities are sort of baked in to some of the history of our country, or at least speculative history. And so I think that fits really well. And again, there's that stress on, the St. Michael's school that these kids go to, the priest who's the head of the school, who also gives the Sunday sermon. So you have that backdrop as well. Right. So I really think those two things crashing into each other serve the story really well, and I think that they're utilized really well. Okay. Hannah Rose made it a really good job of sort of getting you into what this world is like, what it's like for this president and her family, and again, it's sort of like, it's the West Wing, or V meets The Exorcist in a lot of respects. What I really love though was the art. So the art is very sketchy. It's almost like courtroom sketches, right? Okay. Which is kind of neat because it gives you, I think, almost an immediacy to the proceedings, that you actually have this artist who is a fly on the wall drawing these things as they happen, right? And then every now and then it's almost like cue the foreboding music at the end of a page. In the last couple panel sequences, some dark shadow will sort of cross the scene, cross the background, blah, blah, blah. So really starting to build that and set that up. So the Exorcism at 1600 pen, not scarier than our current political climate, but a really good read, really good setup, believable characters, and kind of a believable situation. And again, combining that idea of that dark undercurrent that exists in the story of the founding of America, according to some people, is a great sandbox to play in.
All right, cool. Just as from Figure Drawing, I'm going to pop it up there. We're not going to go into politics here because we don't share it, but just thought it was funny. Trump is about to win. Very funny, bro. Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, I mean, art reflects life, right? And vice versa. Yeah, so check it out. Exorcism at 1600. Pen, #1 by IDW Comics. All right, moving on to our next one. I'm going to have fun with this one because this was actually pretty good. I spoke about my quarrel with Vault a while back, increasing their price sneakily on every single one of their books. But you got to do what you got to do. Godfather of Hell, #1 from Vault Comics. Woo! All right, so let's look at the creative team. You've got Kevin Scott as the writer, Pius Bach as the artist, Raul Angulo, colorist, and World Design as with letters. Listen, it's in the title. It's in the title. It does not hide anything at all. You literally start off with a mafia scene. This, Godfather who's talking to one of his guys who messed up. Guy says he knows he messed up, and it's funny because it's so like the trope of the mafia where they're just so kind to you in your face, and then just like stab you in the back is just right up in here. So there's an entanglement between the Godfather, one of his enforcers who has killed a made man, and he's telling him that he's messed up, but he doesn't want to punish him because he's dating his daughter. So there's a conundrum there, and there's this relationship where he just doesn't want to cross the line. But obviously, he's the Godfather, so that comes first. The family comes first. So stuff happens where somehow, what's his name? I gotta get his name. Dario.
Dario Silvio or something, right?
Yeah. So Dario ends up dead. I'm not going to tell you how.
Santini. Dario Santini.
Oh yeah, that's right. And ends up in hell where this demon, dude, if you want to see sausages in books, you're going to see a ton of sausages in the book. It's just crazy. But it's this demon who's huge as hell, who's just going to fuck this guy's life over and over forever. Long story short, he kills demon. I'm not going to give away too much because it's definitely worth, this was much better than it had the right to be. So I picked it up. And I didn't order it, but I saw it there and I picked it up, and I just love the color palette. I love the layout stuff. So I said, all right, let me give it a read. And the story ended up being really, really good. Kills that demon, ends up meeting this hired demon, Samuel.
Samuel,
who wants to hire him, or not hire him. He's going to force him to be his enforcer for people on Earth who have sold their soul to Lucifer, who are now hiding. Fucking shit, that concept is fantastic. He just says you have a particular skill set that I could use. I just kept reading it like that. It was just funny. But like the art is really simple. It almost reminds me of, you know what? Oh, it's not. Kind of like Wes Craig, where it's just really just basic lines, but the color palette's really cool. There's a really good shot in here that I have. Look at this demon. And then you want to see demon sausage? Bam! Demon sausage. So he just runs into this guy and he's just like already effing with him and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a really solid read. It gave you a lot of information in the first issue, but it didn't really skip over anything. The pacing I thought was really great. The art was fantastic. The layouts were fantastic. And like we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago in the movies, like the reactions were real. Like things were happening to him and he was questioning everything as to what the hell was going on because it felt surreal. So, kudos to Kevin Scott and the rest of the team because they put together a really solid book. If this ends up being a mini and a close story, I'd be happy. If it goes ongoing, then I'd be happy with that as well. But the twist at the very end just had me laughing.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you're sort of like in the genre of mafia and horror, kind of just marrying one another, this is probably the perfect read. Yeah. I don't know what you thought, John.
I thought this was great. I got everything out of it that you got. I thought, again, everything is intact in this first issue. It doesn't get too heavy into the mafia dynamics, but it has this understanding that pretty much most people in the world have seen a mafia movie, especially Goodfellas, right? And so the whole thing, if you've seen Goodfellas, you can't kill a made man, no matter what, right? In that world. And so that setup is great. The moral conundrum for the Godfather, and how he feels towards Dario. I thought that was really cool. It was really well portrayed. The stuff like the way hell works in this situation, and how you see other people that have gone to hell and how that demon's wearing the face of the guy that he kills at the beginning to mess with him. That's some great stuff. And a lot of that, even Samael and, the hierarchy of demons and mentioning that, the Morning Star is at the top, that's all from previous, Dante's Inferno and some bits from the Bible and things like that. So I thought that was really cool. And that was really intact. And then that swerve at the end, because they really go, and I don't want to give too much away, but they really go to great lengths to make you think that this is a situation where we're going to be following this guy as we see him throughout, even though because of the horrors of hell, he don't look like the same person as he did. He gets really destroyed and re-put back together wrongly. And even the way he kills that first demon, it's such a desperation move, but it pays off. And then they think, whoa, this guy's amazing. This guy's completely capable. This is what, look at the people he killed in life. And then it makes sense why they would want him,
Right.
But yeah, then there's the problem that he is dead and he can't really move in the world in his current form. And so again, you mentioned sausages. There are stresses how much of a masculine person this guy is throughout the book, pre and post death. That swerve is fantastic. But now my question is this going to track, or is it going to be almost like a different appearance for each person he has to go? And we're going to get like a quantum leap kind of thing here.
Right.
So that's like, and so when a first issue could do that to me, where I'm like, wow, I thought this was going to be one thing. You gave me this great last page swerve. And now I'm thinking ahead 4 or 5 issues. Like, what are you going to do with this? Because this is really cool. And are you going to keep doing a swerve? Are you going to keep that? The thing is, I like a book that just piles stuff on top of stuff, right? Like Kyle Starks is really good with that, who did Where Monsters Lie and has the new volume of that coming out, Cul-de-sac, that came out this past week. He did that with I Hate This Place. He said, I want to put everything in this to make people feel I hate this place or F this place, which was the variant cover title. So I love when you start with a great concept and it works, and then you just start piling more crazy shit on top of it. That, to me, as a reader, I'm in.
Yeah, and it works if you have a really strong foundation, and this is such a really strong foundation. So I'm really looking forward to it. I hope this creative team they're on point. So, all right, another one by Figure Drawing. I have to put it up. I wonder if the demons will be eating cats and dogs. Yes, I'm pretty sure they will be.
Only the Haitian ones, I guess.
Only the Haitian ones, yeah. All right, yeah. So Godfather of Hell. This is from Vault Comics. Absolutely check it out. It was a delight to read. I'm looking forward to the next issue. All right, so that brings us to our final one. You were talking about Kyle Starks. This is what I have. But bam, Where the Monsters Lie, Cul-de-sac #1. Now, this is a volume 2. So if you didn't read volume 1, do you have to have read volume 1? I would say yes and no. There's enough information there to let you read this issue, but volume 1 was so good.
Yeah.
Both John and I read it. We really, really enjoyed it, especially the concepts. They were just like off the chain. So it's definitely worth picking up, but you can definitely pick this one up as well. All right, so what do we got as far as the creative team? The script is Kyle Starks, art by Piotr Kowalski, colors by Vladimir Popov, and letters by Joshua Reed. Premise of the book: murderers of the world, like mass murderers, different types of murderers. They've created a community for themselves, but they're actually being led by someone or a conclave of sorts that makes decisions on like their murder quota and all this stuff, which is the concept is so far out there, but it works so well.
It's a gated community for serial killers. And like all gated communities, you have these rules. There's a housing board, right? And they decide what kind of flags you can put up and when, and how far your mailbox has to be from the curb, and trash has to go out at a specific time. So they have all these rules, but it all retains to no serial killing within the community. So
they can curse at each other, they can whatever each other, they just can't kill each other, and they can't murder they can't do unsanctioned murders on the premise as well. So if they bring anybody into the gated community, the community knows, and then they perform their murders, and then they have their quotas that they do outside.
And in the last series, because I didn't actually get to read this one yet, but in the last series, one of the great humorous elements was the people who run this community, the serial killers that are in charge. The people that live there are driving them nuts because they're constantly breaking the rules
all the time, which is crazy. But so then now we get volume 2. So without giving up too much away, without spoiling out the first one, if you want to read it, you had something major happen in the original community, which no longer exists. So you have this gentleman on the front page who was a cop where something happened to him where he was traumatized when he was young, and it had to do with a serial killer. And he spent most of his life, he became sort of an agent to track down serial killers and put them behind bars or to take care of them. And so he stumbles upon this community by some means, and they end up taking an entire community down. So now we have the people that survived that original community coming to Site C, which is another community in a cul-de-sac. And each site is actually run by a person. So each site has sort of like the person that oversees that particular, community. And so the person that survived the old community comes over, and she's kind of like taking over things, and they're discussing about, what they need to do to move forward. So it's sort of like a hostile takeover and sort of like a catch up from the last issue to what's going to be happening here. And what we find out in this particular issue is that the woman that came over, older lady, who's taking over this community, is not the top person. So there's these people that need these quotas. I swear to God, bro, I think it is demons. It has to be demons.
Yeah, I mean, from that cover too.
From the shadows and stuff like that. So yeah, so we got a whole set. What's really cool, let me pop myself up really quickly here, is that when you open up the book, you kind of get sort of like the cast of who is going to be in there. So it goes to like a wanted page, and these are everybody that's sort of like in there. So you got Zell, Beast Lord, Vilmos, and they all do different things. So no two serial killers are alike.
One of the rules.
The rules. The Coven, which are these three girls, they're hilarious because I always read them as sort of like who are the girls from X-Men? The ones that were
the Stepford Cuckoos.
Yes. Where one person says something, but in the Coven, one woman will say something and the other two will say it, but they'll use synonyms. So it won't be exactly what she said, but it'll be similar to what she said, repeating it without repeating it. So it's not a true echo. So really, really good. I mean, just the conflict that you have, the tension that you have. And now with this particular issue, they captured the agent from the previous series and brought him in. So now they're forcing him to be a serial killer. And if he doesn't, they'll kill his pregnant wife and unborn child. So it's just, but the thing is that she was a serial killer. They fell in love. He found out about her past. It's written so well, and all the twists and turns, and the very end of this book too, with what happens, really good twist here as well. So, John, if you haven't read it, get yourself to read it, bro. It's definitely really good. If you haven't read it, I would definitely get the first volume. It's definitely worth the read. If not, definitely pick this one up. You will not be disappointed. Where Monsters Lie, Cul-de-sac. And this is from Dark Horse Comics. They've been doing some good stuff.
Yeah.
Really, really good. Now, you had some books that you want to mention from last week?
Yeah, I didn't read them, so.
All right, that's fantastic.
Right, I didn't even read that. It was tough to get these two done. Yeah.
All right, well, you got some news, and you got 3 books. It is Halloween, so we're probably going to have some more horror stuff next week, but we will definitely be here next week at 1 p.m. to give you everything that's coming out, this Wednesday, which is pretty cool.
I do have something to add really quick. You mentioned Dark Horse. I haven't seen it yet, but apparently the Hellboy movie, that the Crooked Man, apparently it's really good.
The Crooked Man? Yeah.
Came out,
I haven't seen it yet. I've seen the commercial for it. It looks scary as hell. It definitely looks scarier than all the previous Hellboys.
It's one thing that I've heard that it's really good is that it is a fairly close adaptation of that comic story, The Crooked Man.
Right.
And if you know that story, it's not a very Hellboy focused story. That there's weird stuff, dark stuff going on, and Hellboy just happens to be there, right? So that's kind of cool. It's not hinging upon if Hellboy achieves his full potential, he could destroy the world, which it was great the first time they did it.
Right.
But then you do that every movie, it's like, come on. So so I'm really looking forward to checking that out. I heard real spooky vibes, so good for this time of month or this time of year. And so I just heard really good things about it. So I'm really happy that that's something that came out in the last couple of weeks is good.
Well, we spoke about The Crow, but we won't speak about that anymore. Figure Drawing Ass, is the comic gory? Not yet, because there hasn't been any murders in the book. But in the previous series, yes, there's some stuff in there that just makes you go, The Godfather from Hell has some tones of gore, that, especially with the face. When the demon's wearing somebody else's face, it's kind of distorted and stuff like that, and it's sick. And there's some things that they do to him in the book where they tear his body completely apart and then try to reassemble it in a different way. That's just kind of hideous.
Yeah.
But really cool though.
Yeah, one thing about Where Monsters Lie and the artist Piotr Kowalski, he's really good because he kind of has. I don't know if you're familiar with the artist John Severin. John Severin, would do a really fine line, a very detailed, realistic, but almost bordering on cartoonish parody too. But he found that right sweet spot right in the middle. So when the gore will eventually happen based on Where Monsters Lie, the first series, it'll be pretty visceral, but it won't like make you want to vomit. As I'll say.
Well, I have a weak stomach. So yeah, we'll see about that. All right there, kiddies, that's the show for now. So if you like what you heard, please subscribe to the podcast. Better yet, tell 10,000 other friends so they can join us every Monday at 1:00. If you want to join us, if you're a creator, you have something that you want to promote, you and or your project, AmazingActionComics.com. Forget about the podcast. It's just right there in the main page now. Just fill out the form. John and I would love to have you on, talk about you and your project. Make sure you stay up to date on everything that we've got going on at AmazingActionComics.com. It's really simplified right now because we're working on behind-the-scenes stuff, but probably within the next couple of weeks, a brand new site up with some really cool information. Last but not least, please support your local comic book shops, because without them, we wouldn't be able to do the things that we love, which is read comics and talk about comics. John, where do you get your comics from?
Well, I get my comics at The Joker's Child in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Approaching its 36th year, The Joker's Child has been providing comic books, comic-related paraphernalia, toys, statues, games to the Bergen County and beyond community for, gosh, that's a really long time, 36 years. So come on down, see all the great stuff we have. Constantly get new stuff, but we got plenty of old stuff. The Joker's Child. Really one of the best comic shops out there is.
Absolutely. And if you can't make it there, then visit your comic shop. Make sure you show them support. Until next time, kiddies, please be amazing, stay amazing, and read something amazing.